football fans, and welcome. I'm live from the press box. It's Tim from Answer the Call podcast, and oh my, is it going to be a good one? It's going to be a good one today, guys. I'm doing the mock draft. All right, my first mock draft I've ever done. First mock draft of the off season. So we have first through 32nd, no trades. I didn't want to waste any time with any trades or anything like that. But I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited for this list. Some of them are going to be some head scratchers. All right, just bear with me. I like to mix it up a little bit, and I got to tell you, some of these you may say, "Hey, what are you thinking there, bud?" Let me know. You can comment on the episode. We're live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Answer the call. And it'll also be posted on Spotify. You can find it there. Answer the call, COLL. In case you can't stick around for the whole live, that's all right, guys. It'll be on Spotify. All right, so no trades. Like I said, there's going to be no trades in this mock draft. And I want to point out that I started doing this mock draft yesterday before the news broke of Russell Wilson signing with the Giants and, Stephon Diggs signing with the Patriots. And I got to tell you, it didn't really affect my mock draft. I was already, I think, out in the 20s or so whenever the news broke. But I do want to point out one thing, though. Yesterday, I shared on the Instagram story, I said, you know, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter if Cam Ward goes number one, or hot take, maybe the Browns should trade back and acquire more picks. And then 12 hours later, news broke that they are open to trading the pick. So I don't know, maybe they saw the Instagram story and said, hey, maybe this is a good idea. I don't think so. But it was just funny how that worked. I was like, oh, a hot take, maybe the Browns just trade back. And all of a sudden, now they're willing to trade back. So we'll have to see how it goes. And I got to tell you guys, the mock draft that I did, there's going to be some, like, wow, I can't believe he did that. But, let me know. And we're going to get started with it, though, guys. We're going to get started with it. All right, first up, the Tennessee Titans with the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft via mock draft from Answer the Call is quarterback from Miami, Cam Ward. Cam Ward had a really good pro day the other day. There was a lot of scouts, a lot of people checking him out. He did a really good job. I thought he did a really good job putting the ball where it was supposed to be, hitting his receivers in stride. And I got to tell you, I know that they have Will Levis, and, I kind of been they need to give, Will Levis a chance and give him some weapons, but we're in a new era. You better produce or you're out. And he didn't produce. So I think they just need to go ahead and go with Cam Ward first overall. And now they do have other options, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State, or they could trade the pick. But my belief is they're going to go Cam Ward, and that brings us to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, all right? They could trade the pick. But Abdul Carter's sitting there. They have a lot of other needs, but let me tell you, pairing Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett and wrecking havoc just in the backfield and making those offensive linemen work and getting to those quarterbacks in the AFC North, with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and whoever the Steelers quarterback is going to be. We don't even know yet. And getting to them and getting pressure, I think that could really, really start to help the team and the franchise turn it around on the defensive side. So I got to tell you, I'm really big on Abdul Carter going to the Browns. They could go Shadur Sanders, but the belief is They're going to go Abdul Carter. They could go Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, trade the pick away. So, I mentioned trade the pick away before the news broke that they were even willing. And I put it in the mock draft before the news broke. So Abdul Carter is my pick, though. All right, moving forward. New York Football Giants. Travis Hunter just kind of falls right into their lap right here. You know, wide receiver corner coming out of Colorado. I know he's listed more as a corner in the NFL, but look for Brian Daboll to really use him on the offensive side. And, now with Russell Wilson, you have Malik Neighbors. If you want to throw in Travis Hunter, that offense could be explosive. And on the defensive side, he can just go help intercept balls if Russell Wilson turns the ball over. So a couple other options is trade the pick. Obviously, they could trade back and acquire more picks, or they could have went offensive tackle Will Campbell, who his arms actually tested a little bit longer than it did at the combine, so that could help his draft stock. But New York Giants, they are taking Travis Hunter. They're going to take Travis Hunter, and I got to tell you, here we go. The New England Patriots. They just got Stephon Diggs. That filled a major hole. Now they got their number one wide receiver, and I really like them to go out and get an offensive tackle to help protect Drake May. They go out and get Will Campbell from LSU, offensive tackle. Now, other options, they could have went Tet McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona, or Amon Mimbu, the offensive tackle out of Missouri. Will Johnson, corner from Michigan. Or they could have traded the pick as well, but after the pro day, I really like Will Campbell going to the Patriots, and I did have him there yesterday before the pro day. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, now they're in an interesting spot because they have a lot of needs, but and they missed out on Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. But they're going to address a defensive line issue, and they're going to draft Mason Graham, defensive lineman out of Michigan. And he's going to come in and clog that lane. So other options is corner Will Johnson, corner Jahdae Barron, and linebacker Jahad Campbell. I think 5 is a little too high for Campbell. I like him. I respect him. But now it starts to get a little interesting. The Raiders could go a couple different ways. And I'm hearing that, Pete Carroll is trying to acquire Ken Walker from Seattle. That was his running back when Pete Carroll was with Seattle a couple years ago. And I got to tell you, this kind of made me change how I viewed things. And I know this is going to be crazy, but the Las Vegas Raiders take Shadur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado. And I'm going to tell you, Tom Brady likes him. He could sit behind Geno. Everybody's sitting there saying like, oh, Shadur Sanders has to start year one. No, he doesn't. Look what the Chiefs did. They drafted Mahomes with Alex Smith. They let him sit behind Alex Smith. Alex Smith wasn't a great quarterback, but he was a good mentor, and he taught Mahomes how to be a quarterback in the NFL. And I just think that maybe the the Raiders want to go the same route and have Geno Smith kind of mentor Shadur Sanders, and then you have Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, right there as part owner to kind of help give him some input. So I think that, with this pick, they take Shadur Sanders, and, I know that's a little high for him, but you never know what's going to happen with Shadur. He could go top 5, or he could slip all the way down to like the 18 to 20 range, kind of like what Aaron Rodgers did a few years ago, back in 2005, where many thought he was going to be a top 10 pick, and then all of a sudden he's just sliding all the way down into the 20s. So I think they're going to take Shadur Sanders, but I could be wrong here, guys. And moving forward, we have the we have the New York Football Jets, the Jets, Jets. They got Justin Fields in free agency. They've got Garrett Wilson. They do have, a couple good running backs. Maybe they want to do a little run game, just run the ball, be physical. And what better way than getting an offensive tackle? Armand Mimbu, offensive tackle from Missouri. Now, they could go a couple different options here. They could go Ted McMillan, wide receiver. They could go Ashton Genty, running back, but they already have two running backs, They could go Will Johnson, corner, to pair him up, with Sauce Gardner. And I got to tell you, all those are intriguing. Malachi Starks at safety, and they could even draft Tyler Warren at tight end. But I gotta tell you that it's going to be real interesting because I mean maybe Tyler Warren, maybe he goes there, but I don't think he does. I don't think he does at all. And I actually think he could, he's going to be a top 10 pick, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. But moving forward, we have the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, Ashton Genty. They make a splash here, guys, and I know you probably listening to this and you're like, no way does the Carolina Panthers take Ashton Genty. But I'm telling you right now, yeah, it could happen. It absolutely could happen, guys. We're sitting here and they have a wide receiver. They have the quarterback. I don't know. I know they drafted Jonathan Brooks last season, but oh my gosh, he's on his second ACL injury. So I really like Carolina here, guys. Like, I know it's crazy, but Ashton Genty to the Carolina Panthers, that could sell tickets. And, now I got to say they could go Ted McMillan, pair him up. They could go Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman, Matthew Golden, wide receiver. He ran a 4.2940. Malachi Starks at safety. Go get, some secondary help with J.C. Horn signing that extension. They could go get Will Johnson to pair with J.C. Horn. Mike Green, the edge rusher, had a great pro day yesterday. Luther Burden, he's, dynamic. There's a lot of options the Panthers go, but I think in this mock draft, they shake things up just a little bit. And, maybe some of these other teams are like, oh, I don't know what to do now. But, all right, so the New Orleans Saints are on the clock with the 9th pick, and they're going to take cornerback Will Johnson from Michigan. They traded Marshawn Lattimore last season, and they need a corner. They need a kind of a shutdown corner. I think Will Johnson steps in, and he does that job in kind of a weaker quarterback NFC division. There's not a lot of elite passers in the NFC South, so maybe he steps in. Matthew Golden, Ted McMillan, Jade Barron, Kenneth Grant, Mike Green, Jahad Campbell are all options here too. I wouldn't mind seeing Jahad Campbell go there just to kind of learn from Demario Davis. But Will Johnson in the secondary. All right, now here comes another splash play, guys. Another splash play. The Chicago Bears are on the clock, and, they really wanted Ashton Genty. Maybe they wanted Ashton Genty, but, the Panthers beat them to the punch. So they got Ben Johnson, who loves to run the 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. They go out and get Tyler Warren from Penn State. And, with Ben Johnson, his offensive mind, his guru mentality, the trick plays and all that, I got to tell you guys, I think this could work. I think it could work. Tyler Warren hiked the ball, caught a touchdown all in one play, for Penn State. He can run the ball on, like some fullback dives or direct snaps. So look for Ben Johnson to really just want to put, as many pieces around Caleb Williams as possible and just really see what Caleb Williams is made of. All right, moving forward, we have the San Francisco 49ers. They need all kinds of help. They're going to go Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman from Michigan. So both Michigan boys are out in the top 11 picks. So, and, Will Johnson. So 3 Michigan players in the top 11. Dallas Cowboys. Here we go. Dallas Cowboys. Now they have a couple options, running back Amarian Hampton, edge rusher James Pierce, edge rusher Mike Green, but they're going to go on the offensive side here, guys, and they're going to take wide receiver Matthew Golden out of Texas, who ran that 4.2 940, pair him up with CD Lamb, and let's see what happens with that. You got Dak Prescott throwing to either one of those, and they have a pretty decent tight end, and they signed Javonte Williams in the offseason. This Cowboys offense could be explosive. I don't think they will be, but they could be. Next up is the Miami Dolphins. And I got to tell you, originally I had them taking guard Tyler Booker. But as I was getting further down my mock draft, I realized I didn't have Malachi Starks anywhere. And I already had other safeties coming off the board. And I was like, well, I feel like Malachi Starks is the best safety in the class. And so the Miami Dolphins are going to take Malachi Starks. They're going to take Malachi Starks with the 13th pick in the draft. Indianapolis, number 14, takes edge rusher Mike Green. Edge rusher Mike Green goes to Indianapolis. They're going to be really impressed with his pro day, and I think a lot more teams could be in the top 10, top 13 as well. So look for Mike Green's draft stock to rise right here, guys. All right, moving forward, we have the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to take cornerback from Texas, Jahdae Barron. They're going to take Jahdae Barron. They need all kinds of help. They were hoping for Mike Green. They were hoping for that Will Johnson would fall into their lap, but that's not the case in this mock draft. So they're going to go next best option here and get Jahdae Barron to help with that defense. All right, Arizona. They need all kinds of help. They need more help than this draft can probably produce them with. But to get things started, they're going to go out and they're going to go get another wide receiver to pair with Marvin Harrison Jr., and that is Luther Burden, the third from Missouri, that explosive dynamic player. They could have went edge rush here. They could have went offensive tackle. They could have went out and got a Mika Ibuka, and just have both the Ohio State boys. But I don't think that's the case. Maybe the Jets do. Maybe the Jets don't take a tackle and they go get Emeka Ibuka and have Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields, and Ibuka, just an Ohio State reunion. So, but that's that. Cincinnati, they spent all this money. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Where's the money coming for the defensive side? Well, there's probably not going to be. And so they're going to have to start drafting, and they go get an anchor in the middle of that line. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, defensive tackle. They could have went James Pierce here, Mikael Williams, but I just think that they need something right there in the center to get, some run stopping in that AFC North. They have, the Pittsburgh Steelers that like to run the ball. They got the Baltimore Ravens that definitely have been loving to run the ball with Derrick Henry. So they go get a big run gap stopper, a run stopper in Walter Nolan. Now, this next pick here, I have a buddy of mine that he is a Seahawks fan, all right? He's a Seahawks fan. And I'm really interested to see, how he feels about it. And I hope he lets me know. Adam, you guys remember Adam from Adam B Sports, also co-host of the Inside the Locker Room podcast. And I got to tell you, I have the Seahawks taking Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. As this progressed, it was just like, wow, Seattle can go so many ways here. Offensive tackle, tight end. Who wouldn't like a tight end? Sam Darnold and the two running backs, and you got Cooper Cup and JSN, and then you throw in a tight end like Colston Loveland, but then I was like, they also need help on the defense, and so I was like, oh, Jahad Campbell sitting right there. I think he comes in, he's an immediate impact. The only reason I have him at 18 and not higher is because at the Alabama Pro Day, he was supporting his arm in a sling, kind of in a brace. He said he's going to be good to go week one. That's not going to hinder, but I think that might, make some teams a bit weary, and that he slides just a bit. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to take edge rusher Mikael Williams. They need help on the defensive side. They didn't get Campbell. They didn't get Green. They're not getting the corners. So I really like Tampa Bay to take Mikael Williams here. All right, moving forward, we have the Denver Broncos. And this one, I got to tell you, Denver Broncos, they could go a lot of different ways. Tight end, running back. This one, they're going wide receiver. Wide receiver Tet McMillan out of Arizona. Now, they could have easily went Emeka Ibuka as well. Amari and Hampton, running back from North Carolina. Jalon Walker. But in this one, they're going to go get a big body wide receiver, Tet McMillan, at 6'4", 200+ pounds, who just ran a 4.48 40. So, Bo Nix, he's gonna throw the ball to Tet McMillan and Cortland Sutton this season. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't even have a quarterback other than Mason Rudolph, and you can't expect Mason Rudolph to be your starting quarterback. So I don't care who they go get. I don't care if they go get Aaron Rodgers or if they go talk Tom Brady out of retirement. You want to draft a quarterback in the first round. Jackson Dart is the option right here, guys. They like him. And if they do get Rodgers, let Jackson Dart sit behind one of the best quarterbacks to play the game and let him sit for a year if you need to. And I really like Jackson Dart here, guys. So Jackson Dart, I think, is going to be the pick here. They could have went Amari and Hampton to fill that gap from Najee Harris, or they could have went corner Maxwell Hairston. But all right, number 22, the LA Chargers. And oh my, is this one a good one? I'm excited about this one. As you guys may know, I do root for the Chargers. Now, what do they need? Well, they need a little help on the defensive side. They need a little help on the offensive side. Prior to free agency, I was really thinking Omari and Hampton was the pick, but then Chargers went out and signed Najee Harris. So they got Justin Herbert. They got Najee Harris. They brought back Mike Williams, Ladd McConkey from last year's rookie class. I got to think, Jim Harbaugh, he's looking for a guy. He's looking for a Michigan guy. And if you guys know, Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan, reunited with Coach Harbaugh. The Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are going to do something, guys, that they have not done in a very, very long time. They are going to draft a wide receiver in the first round. They're taking Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Ibuka. Now, they could have went offensive tackle here. They could have went edge rush, defensive lineman, corner. But I like Ibuka to really come in and just amp up that Green Bay offense. And in a division that's kind of became really competitive all of a sudden. So next up is the Minnesota Vikings. And they can't believe that the Packers didn't take Omari and Hampton. So they're going to go ahead and do that. They're going to get their running back for the future. They brought Aaron Jones back. But, hey, Omari and Hampton, it's hard to pass up on Omari and Hampton. Next up is the Houston Texans. They're going to go defensive line out of Oregon, Derek Harmon. Now they could have went wide receiver, edge rush, safety, but here they're going to solidify the interior line, and they're going to get a good person in Derek Harmon. So, all right, LA, the other LA team, the LA Rams, they can't believe that Jalen Walker, linebacker from Georgia, just is still sitting on the board, and they're going to take him with the 26th pick in the draft. So the Rams are going to help their defense out. They could have went corner, they could have went offensive tackle here, but they're going to go get a linebacker to help keep up with some of the running backs and tight ends in that NFC West division. The Baltimore Ravens need secondary help. They need help in the worst of ways. They allow a lot of passing yards. I don't know if he's going to be a deciding factor in that, but Nick Amawori, safety from South Carolina, they could have went offensive tackle here. They could have went and got an edge rusher like Landon Jackson, Xavier Watts at safety, but I really like, Amawori, and I hope I said that right. But he had a really good combine, really good outing, and he could be a difference maker for that Baltimore secondary. So it'll be interesting to see. Next up is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have a need at guard, and they're going to take Tyler Booker. Or maybe they take Donovan Jackson. They're going to take a guard here. They want to be physical. They have their tackles. They're set on offense. Their defense is pretty set. They could go D end or linebacker, but I think for this mock they're going to go with a guard. And Tyler Booker is still sitting there, and so they're going to go ahead and help their offensive line in a big way. The Washington Commanders have been making big moves all offseason, and they're going to go draft Jack Sawyer, Ohio State, edge rusher out of Ohio State. They could have went offensive tackle. They could have went corner, safety, a different edge rusher. But I think Jack Sawyer is the answer that Washington needs, and maybe that's the answer that they're looking for. So, all right, next up we have the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills. Maxwell Hairston. Corner Maxwell Harrison, he ran like a 4.3 40. I think it was like a 4.37 if I remember correctly. He has long arms, real athletic, can play really good zone coverage, and like even if he gets beat right off the line, he has quick recovery. So Bills really need some help in the secondary, and I think this is their guy. They could have went D lineman like Darius Alexander, Landon Jackson, Shamar Stewart. All right, guys, we have 2 picks left. We have the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to take Gray Zabel out of North Dakota, the offensive tackle. That if you watch that Super Bowl, that Patrick Mahomes was running for his life, all right? He was absolutely running for his life out there. And I got to tell you, he didn't like that. So he's going to be looking for a little protection. And I think they're going to get a good one in Gray Zabel. All right, the last pick, guys. We got the last pick. The Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions. They have a big need on defense. They could have went a lot of different routes here. They're going to go get some secondary help. Xavier Watts. Even losing Josh Sweat and a few others up front, Philadelphia still has a really great pass rush. They did lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So, they lost Gardner-Johnson. And I just think that maybe they want to replace him. And they go out and get safety Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. So there you guys have it. There's the first mock draft from Answer the Coll. Guys, if you've enjoyed it, let me know. Comment on the episode. Like, share. you know, drop a follow. That way you never miss any news, any updates, any episodes of Answer the Call podcast. This is also on Spotify. So, you know, if you're listening on Spotify, you can, you know, leave a comment, leave a review, share it with people, you know. These are all ways to help the channel grow. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Answer the Call, COLL. You know, follow all that, you know. I post there, and um I post there. It's live on all three right now, and it's going to be posted to Spotify. So those are all the platforms where you can find Answer the Call podcast. You guys have a great day, and just remember, if you want to talk ball, I'll answer the call. Have a good day, guys.